Trace rifles are a heavily featured weapon type in the new artifact mods, but the boost they got was much higher than I expected. Here's what happened. The big one is harsh refraction. This bumps up legendary trace rifles damage by 50%, exotic trace rifles damage by 35%, and microcosm by 20%. But the target needs to be affected by an elemental debuff matching that of the trace rifle. However, that is easily done. Take the dungeon trace rifle Unsworn as example. This one is strand, so any unravel or sever effect will work, like Arcane Needle or even the artifact mod Unraveling Orbs. To grant Unraveling Grounds would be fantastic, to have this 50% buff active at pretty much all times. You can see the damage here against Carl. 1654 at base, then hit him with Arcane Needle, and the damage is boosted up to 2482. Even better if you have damage perks such as Detonator Beam, as these inherit this huge boost. And that's something I wanted to check. Detonator Beam adds a lot of damage, and I know trace rifles are an add clear weapon, but just for curiosity's sake, how do these perform for single target DPS? With the boost which comes from Unraveling Grounds, turns out not too bad, coming in at 550k in 15 seconds. For comparison, Scatter Signal with Unraveling and Particle Reconstruction comes in at just 800k. It's higher, but that's to be expected. But where this same trace rifle felt incredible was in a Master Loss sector. Tracers have great scalers against rank and file enemies, but fall off against bosses. And honestly, this 2050 content actually felt like on-light content. It was shredding. The Unravel effect went from target to target, meaning I had that 50% damage bonus, and it was really good. I don't want you to assume it's just this specific tracer. Elemental effects are easy to get across the board. The Iron Banner or Guardian Games Trace Rifle both roll jolting feedback. That's an elemental debuff which self-procs just from landing shots. And another neat interaction with these both being arc. If you use Overload Trace Rifle, it will apply Exhaust. Defeating exhausted targets with Photonic Flare active blinds nearby targets, and Blind being another elemental debuff. And Void Trace Rifles are the easiest of the lot. Just use the mod package from the first episode of Volatile Marksman and Maligned Harvest. Chronophage with Shoot to Loot and Destabilizing Rounds would be my suggestion. There's also Beam Medic. When you defeat multiple targets with trace rifles, you gain health back. From what I've tested, it seems to be 3 targets or less if you're against non-red bars, and gives around a cure times 1 amount of health. Also, there's a unique case when it comes to Microcosm, but it's pretty easy enough. Since this is a kinetic weapon, any elemental debuff at all will trigger the 20% refraction damage boost. If you do want a high DPS trace rifle, this is still the one. There's also Aegis Scepter. This is another one which can self-proc by freezing targets, and can self-proc on a single target if you use the Will Given Form Alt-Fire mode. This is really good now, by the way, hitting 1.5 million in 15 seconds. Of course, if you have a super you really want to use, maybe don't go with this. But if your build has a weaker super, this can really pop off. I tried building into this and it's great. I use Prismatic Warlock with Winter's Wrath, which again is kind of a mid super, but that doesn't matter. The only thing I care about is its status, and it builds quickly because it's roaming. Then use the whole Trace Rifle artifact package, and importantly Elemental Supercharger. Remember how Overload Trace Rifle exhausts? This mod will give extra super energy when defeating exhausted targets with a weapon which matches your equipped super. So I get supers back really quickly. Then can use a 35% boosted Aegis Scepter in its place. And while exotic traitors only get a 35% damage boost instead of the 50% for legendaries, all exotic trace rifles do still get a 40% damage boost at base against red bars, despite them being special ammo weapons. And you can really notice these boosts stacking. I know a lot of mods have been covered here and there, but there is one final one I want to mention too. Traitors are a lot better with ammo economy now because just doing more damage means less ammo is needed as a default. But do use Dreadful Finisher 2 if you are in harder champion dense content. With this you will have no ammo worries at all. Then there's also Cenotaph for Warlocks. Thank you for watching.